Greetings, Sacred Heart family. Welcome to the second part of our Black History Month. Again, the theme for this year is the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity. Black Catholics have long been present in the United States, even as early as the 1500s. Historians have argued that it was Congolese Catholic slaves who rose up against their masters in South Carolina colony in 1739, launching what we now know as the Stono Rebellion, the largest slave uprising in the British colonies before the Revolutionary War. We're going to be discussing several things today: the history of Black Catholics, as well as famous individuals who have made history themselves, and the impact of music and famous saints or soon to be saints in our church. The story of Black Catholics is similar to one of all Catholics. For example, the persecution by the KKK of Catholics that occurred. This was also experienced by Blacks, not just Black Catholics. This was rampant, or rather persecution was rampant in the mid-20th century. Following the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on April 16, 1968, Father Herman Porter, a Black priest from Rockford, Illinois, convened the first meeting of the Black Catholic Clergy Caucus in Detroit. The 58 Black priests gathered with at least one brother and woman religious to draft the statement that inaugurated a national Black Catholic movement. Its provocative opening words were, "The Catholic Church in the United States, primarily a white racist institution, has addressed itself primarily to white society and is definitely a part of that society." The priests accused the U.S. church, go back, stay. The priests accused the U.S. church of complicity with white supremacy. They demanded that Black people be given control of the Catholic institutions in Black communities. 4, unless the church, by an immediate, effective, and total reversing of its present practices, rejects and denounces all forms of racism within its ranks and institutions, and in the society of which she is a part, she will become unacceptable in the Black community. The Black Catholic movement that began in 1968 culminated in 1984, when the 10 Black bishops of the United States declared that the Black Catholic community in the United States had come of age. After more than a decade of activism, scholarship, and struggle, it was finally possible for Black Catholics to be, in their words, both authentically Black and truly Catholic. But the 20th century did bring two significant developments in the American population of Black Catholics. The first was the mass movement of African Americans from the rural South to the urban North and West. known as the Great Migrations. As Black migrants moved into Catholic cities such as, back, such as Chicago and Detroit, some white Catholics openly resisted what they took to be an invasion of their turf. They formed racial covenants to exclude Black families from buying homes and intimidated, harassed, and attacked those families that managed to do so. Many white Catholics began a long, fraught process of leaving their inner city parishes behind and moving to the suburbs. This growth, in turn, produced the second significant Black Catholic happening of the 20th century. These burgeoning Black Catholic communities in the urban North were witness to the rise of Black power in the 1960s. But an exceptional few white priests and sisters committed themselves instead to the conversion of Black migrants. These white Catholic missionaries invited Black parents to enroll their children in Catholic schools. When they did so, Black families were introduced to the rituals, prayers, and habits that defined Catholic culture at the time. They learned new ways of imaging, experiencing, and moving in the world. Tens of thousands of African Americans became Catholic as a result of these parochial school encounters, transforming the landscape of U.S. Catholicism. In Chicago, for example, the city's Black Catholic community numbered just a few hundred people meeting in the basement of a single parish in 1900. By 1975, Chicago was home to 80,000 Black Catholics, the second largest Black Catholic population in the country. The Black Catholic movement also inspired unprecedented liturgical innovations as musicians, theologians, and local congregations integrated African and Afro-diasporic religious practices into Catholic worship. The 1970s witnessed a flourishing of experimentation in Black Catholic worship styles, as gospel and jazz music, West African drumming and dance, and Black Protestant preaching styles all found their way into Catholic masses. The movement made intense intellectual contributions as a generation of Black Catholic activists challenged the unspoken but ever-present assumption that white ways of being Catholic were the right ways to be. Brother Joseph Davis, a Maronist brother from Dayton, Ohio, who served as the first executive director of the National Office of Black Catholics, argued that the church had a missionary mentality when it came to Black Catholics, meaning that white Catholics historically treated their Black colleagues as a foreign people in need of special care rather than as full-fledged members of the church. Father Clarence Rivers, the famed liturgist, expanded on this point, arguing that Black culture was clearly considered inferior, second class at best, and inadmissible in tasteful worship. While the church is not supposed to be black or white, Greek or Jew, slave or free. As a matter of fact, the Roman Catholic Church in the United States has been and is radically white. The National Convention of Black Lay Catholics, organized in 1969, soon followed suit, and by 1970, these allied organizations had exerted enough pressure on the national body of U.S. Catholic bishops to win official approval for a national office for Black Catholics based in Washington, D.C. Nationally, the Black Catholic population grew from less than 300,000 to nearly 1 million members between 1940 to 1975, while its center of gravity shifted from the coastal South to the industrial North. The impact of the Catholic Church can be seen not only in Black Catholics, but in Catholic Americans of Latin American, African, Asian, and Native American descent. Moreover, the church has still not fully reckoned with the consequences of Catholic missionaries who sought to subdue and civilize indigenous peoples in the Americas. And it has only begun to confront Catholic enslavement of families whose labor and sale made Catholic institutions sustainable. For example, Georgetown University. Next, Black Catholics have served the church nobly. There are currently 15 Black Catholic saints, and there are 6 Black Catholics that have had causes back that have had causes for canonization opened in the 21st century. The levels of canonization include, first, designation of servant of God, then venerable, then blessed, then saint. The 6 include the Venerable Pierre Toussaint, the former slave and philanthropist who is buried in New York's St. Patrick's Cathedral. Second, the Venerable Henriette De Leo from New Orleans, a descendant of slaves who founded the Sisters of the Holy Family. Servant of God, Mother Mary Elizabeth Lang, the Haitian refugee who had a passion for educating children and who founded the Oblate Sisters of Providence. Servant of God, Father Augustus Tolton, who was born in slavery and eventually attended seminary in Rome because no American seminary would accept him, and who was a pastor in Chicago. Servant of God, Julia Greeley, the former slave who was Denver's Angel of Mercy, now buried in Denver's Cathedral. And lastly, next, the Venerable Sister Theo Bowman, a member of the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration. Granddaughter of slaves, she was gifted with a brilliant mind and beautiful voice. She served as a consultant for intercultural awareness. She gave presentations combining singing, gospel preaching, prayer, and storytelling. Her speech in 1989 at the U.S. Bishops' Conference on Black Catholics ended with her invitation to them to stand and sing, "We Shall Overcome." We are also very proud of our many famous Black Catholics. To just name a few, next, Hank Aaron, Louis Armstrong, Simone Biles, Kobe Bryant. Next, Dominique Dawes, Hermie Edwards, professional football coach, Amanda Gorman, our poet laureate, Toni Morrison, author, and Mrs. Vivian Johnston, our very own. We are also proud to claim our first African American cardinal, Wilton Gregory. Next. There are many causes for celebrating Black Catholics today. Next. One is simply the numbers that populate parishes across the country. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops estimates that there are 3 million Black Catholics in the U.S., 798 predominantly African American parishes. While many Black people are Baptist, the second largest religious group that Black people belong to in the United States is the Catholic Church. There are, next, 250 African American priests, 5 living African American bishops, 437 deacons, 75 men of African descent in seminary formation, 400 African American religious sisters, and 50 religious brothers. I beg your pardon. Music unites us as families. As mentioned previously, the Black Catholic movement brought Black culture into the celebration of Mass. Music penetrates almost every part of our lives, our rest, our entertainment, our education, and our worship. Throughout history, it has celebrated the triumphs and tragedies of life. As Plato said, music gives soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination. Music both shapes and reflects society. Dancers follow its beat, protesters use it to find their voice. It can promote ideals like peace and solidarity, but it can also prepare armies for battle. It is part of almost every important personal and collective moment, but it is also mysterious. Next, rhythm and pitch can be expressed as mathematical formulae, and musicians know the techniques by which they produce a certain sound. But no scientist or musician can explain the power that music has over our emotions. That surely is what another Greek writer had in mind, who said that song is a divine gift from God. In a world of diversity where often values clash, music leaps across language barriers and unites people of quite different cultural backgrounds. And so through music, all peoples can come together to make the world a more harmonious place. We celebrate the music this weekend to bear in mind Black history and the history of Black Catholics. As we listen, let us think of each other as children of God, one with each other as members of the human race. Thank you.